Okay, let's do some higher maths. So, what we're going to do today is solve this equation here. We're going to find its solutions, the values of x that make this true. And I just want you to be aware that when we say solutions, quite often we're asked to find the roots of the equation. These are the same thing, okay? So the roots of this equation are the solutions of this equation. Which values of x make it be true that x squared, take away 2 times x minus 3, and you get the answer 0. So here's the first way of doing it, factorisation. This is always possible in higher. And when it works, it's generally the quickest and easiest way, but it does get much harder when the equation gets harder. So, how do I get the x squared? Well, I need to have an x times an x to do that. How do I get the negative 2x and the negative 3? Well, the negative 3 is going to have to be either minus 1 times 3 or 3 times minus 1. So, to work that one out, I need to look at this and say, okay, I also need to get negative 2x. So, negative 3 and positive 1 will expand out to give me this. I hope you're happy with expanding these brackets out already. So now I've solved the puzzle and I've figured out what goes in here to expand out to give me the answer I wanted. That's called factorisation. It's very easy to solve the equation. Either x is going to be negative 1 or x is going to be 3. Basically, I've just swapped the signs here. How do I know that? Well, let's suppose x is 3. 3 take away 3 is 0. This whole bracket is worth 0. Whatever this is, I don't care, because anything times 0 gives me the answer 0, which is what I wanted when I was trying to solve the equation. Similarly, if x is negative 1, this is 0. 0 times something, and you get the answer 0. Okay? So really easy to do when you've got a simple equation. Much harder with a harder equation. Complete the square. So the question will always say, write it in the form p lots of x plus q all squared plus r. There's an easy way and a hard way. We're going to do the easy way. We're going to take this and expand it out. So if I've got p lots of x plus q squared, it means x plus q times x plus q. That's this one squared plus r. And then I'm going to expand out these brackets the same way we expanded out these. So x times x times q, q times x, q times q, and p times by everything. So p lots of x squared plus qx plus qx plus q squared. When I expand out those brackets there, plus r. And times the p by everything, simplify these two together to 2qx's. And I've got px squared plus p 2pqx plus pq squared plus r. Okay, and what I'm going to do is compare that with my original equation. So let's look at the x squareds. We used to have x squared, we used to have take away 2x, we used to have take away 3. Now here I've got px squared, here I've got x squared. How can I make them equal? How can I make them match? Basically, p is going to have to be 1. Here I've got negative 2x's, here I've got 2pqx's. So basically, right, from here I can tell you that 2pq is going to have to equal the same thing as negative 2. Otherwise, the x numbers can't match. Now I know p is already worth 1, so I've got 2 times 1 times q is negative 2, so 2q is negative 2, q is going to be negative 1. Okay, it's going pretty well. I'm trying to work out what r is, so let's look at this bit. All the bit with no x's at all, this negative 3 number has to be made by p times q squared plus r. So basically, pq squared plus r has to give me the negative 3. Now p is 1, q is negative 1, so 1 negative 1 squared plus r gives me the negative 3, sorry. Okay, Negative 1 squared, minus times minus is a plus. So what's going to happen is I'm going to have 1 plus r equals negative 3. And so r is going to be negative 4. So what we found out is that this original equation that I started with at the top here, this one here, is the same thing. Okay, so x squared minus 2x minus 3 is the same thing as this equation here, but with these numbers in it. Okay, so it's the same thing as 1 x minus 1 squared take away 4. Okay, and I could simplify that even to just x minus 1 squared take away 4, one of these. I can then go ahead and solve that. So the question said this equals 0. So if 0 is that and 0 is this, then I'm going to do like adding 4 both sides, and I've got 4 is x minus 1 squared. I'm going to do some square rooting, and I'm going to have 2 is going to be x minus 1. Technically it's plus or minus 2, remember, because negative 2 times by negative 2 gives you positive 4. The square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. And then that gives me two possible solutions, right? So either 2 equals x minus 1. And what does that mean? That means that 3 equals x. Or negative 2 equals x minus 1. And what does that give me? That gives me negative 1 equals x. So these two solutions very happily match these two here. Heck of a mission to get there, but this will always work for any equation in the world. This only works occasionally. It just so happens at higher maths it's always possible. Okay, what if I didn't like either of those and I wanted to go ahead and hit it with a really, really big hammer, otherwise known as a quadratic equation formula? Advantages, always works. Okay, process to follow. You can't get kind of stuck like this, really. Disadvantage, you have to memorize it. Okay, you have to memorize the formula. So the formula is this: x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So note how the plus or minus square root is kind of related to this plus or minus square root of 4 there. All divided by 2a. So then you ask, what the hell are a, b, and c? Well, basically, quadratic equations look like this. Something x squared plus something x plus something equals 0. So first you put it in that format, and then you match up just like here, just like we did when we matched up here, to see what the letters are. So in this case, that a is going to have to be 1, because it's just 1x squared. That b is going to have to be negative 2, negative 2x. And that c is going to have to be negative 3. Okay, so now we're good to go. We're going to put these into the formula. Negative b, so b is negative 2. So x equals negative negative 2. Stick it in the bracket to make it easier. Plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. So that's going to get a bit squidged, isn't it? Minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. Okay, sorry, you can't quite see that there. So 4 times 1 times negative 3. All over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. So you'll see the next step easily. 4 times 1 times negative 3 there. 4 times a times c. So what have I got? Minus minus is a plus. So x is going to be 2 plus or minus 2 plus or minus the square root of, now this is important. Everyone always gets this wrong, all right? Negative 2 squared is going to be 4. You'll always have a positive number here. Okay? So then minus there, minus 3 there. So negative times negative is a positive again. So plus 4 times 1 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Times 1 is still 12. Divided by 2. And I can simplify this a bit more, work it through. So let's just keep it like this. 2 plus or minus the square root of 16 divided by 2, which is 2 plus or minus 4 divided by 2, square root of 16 being 4, which is, well, either, it gives you two different options, okay? So either we've got the 2 plus 4 being 6 over 2, or we've got the 2 take away 4 being negative 1, negative 2 over 2. 6 over 2 is the same as 3. Negative 2 divided by 2 is going to be negative 1. So either x equals 3 or x equals negative 1. Right, let's do a brief recap. You can solve this equation in at least 3 ways. All 3 work. Factorize is easy when it's easy and very hard when it's hard. You just get 2 brackets and you play the game, what numbers go in here to make this. Complete the square always works. Quite often they ask you for this in the question explicitly. They say write it in this form in part A, and then you can do loads of other stuff with it as well, so you need to be familiar with how to do this. This looks long, but actually it's really quick and easy because every single time it's the same, every single time it's the same answer. Okay, so up to here is really quick, same, identical, the same every time. So it gets easier the more you do it. Formula, the only hard part is you've got to remember the formula and not mess it up when you put your negatives and you square them, okay? So if you definitely can remember this and you just want to hit it with the formula, that's fine. You still need to know and understand how to do this and how to do this because there's questions that ask you specifically about these things. There we go.